Extreme Monsters, Book 3. Meet Mr. Hydeous. Chapter 5. Secrets. It was dark when Mumford, Doc, and Steiner got home from the hospital. Gerald was waiting for them, wearing the big-eyed angelic look that Steiner had begun to mistrust. "I cleaned up the rest of your lab, Uncle Doc," Gerald said virtuously. He turned to Mumford. "Are you okay? You should be able to do that trick. It's not that hard." Mumford hung his head. I biffed. "I'm okay." Steiner scowled. "Except for the lump on his head and a major headache, an expert like you should have known that trick was too hard for a beginner. It's a good thing Mumford's bandages and helmet cushioned his skull. He could have been seriously hurt." "It isn't Gerald's fault," Mumford mumbled, staring down at his toes. "I didn't have to try the trick. I just didn't want you guys to think I was a wimp loser." "A loser?" Steiner glared at Gerald. He knew where that idea had come from. "Man," he said gently, "everybody biffs when they're first learning a trick. Nobody's the best the first time they try anything. Val's amazing, but even Val has to learn and practice. He still practices every chance he gets. You had a great start on that alley-oop. If you take things a bit slower and keep working, you'll end up being great." With a final glare at Gerald, Steiner went to help Doc fix dinner. Behind Gerald's back, Gerald murmured, "And if practice doesn't grab you, there are other ways to win." It was well past midnight when Mumford sat up at the top bunk in Steiner's bedroom. It was nice of Doc to let him sleep over while his mom and dad helped his grandpa move, Mumford thought. But the problem was he couldn't sleep. His head was hurting and his thoughts kept whirling round and round. He remembered that he hadn't done his homework, and there was school tomorrow, and he hoped his teacher wouldn't be mad. And he hadn't practiced his ice climbing much either, and the competition was the day after tomorrow. And what if his head still hurt, and he couldn't climb properly, and he lost? All because he tried that mute air grab and biffed. To top it all off, he hadn't felt well enough to eat much dinner earlier, and now he was starving. Mumford climbed out of the upper bunk, tiptoed across the room, and opened the bedroom door quietly. He padded down the hall. He hoped some milk and cereal would help him sleep. His monster eyes saw as well in the dark as humans could see in the daylight, so he didn't need to turn on the hall light to find his way downstairs. When Mumford reached the kitchen, he saw a bright beam of light shining on the door. Who was it? Was it Doc or burglars? Mumford tiptoed across the hall and peeked inside. It was Gerald. He was wearing a large hooded sweatshirt and jeans. He was carrying a flashlight and a bottle of something. "Gerald?" Mumford whispered. Gerald jumped and swung the flashlight wildly into Mutton's direction. The light was blinding. "Mumford," Gerald breathed. "I thought you were—" His eyes looked wide and scared. "What are you doing down here?" Mumford asked. "Where are you going? What's in that bottle?" "Bottle?" Gerald frowned at the flask. He thought for a few seconds. "Oh, this. It's something I made. For you," he added, holding the bottle out to Mumford. But it's a secret. You have to promise not to tell. I promise, Mumford said, curious. What is it? While I was in Doc's lab this afternoon, cleaning up, I made you a special potion to make sure you win. Guaranteed, Gerald said. He was holding out the flask. Mumford felt stunned. He held up his hands in a warding off gesture and backed away. No, he said. I mean, no thanks, but no way. It wouldn't be fair. Taking something like that would be cheating. Would it? Gerald asked in an amused, superior tone that made Mumford feel young and stupid. Yes, I suppose it would. He quickly put the bottle behind his back. You're right. I thought you'd feel that way. Maybe it was the odd beam from the flashlight, but Mumford thought the boy's smile looked more like a sneer. I felt bad you were hurt doing that trick, so I wanted to make it up to you, Gerald continued. He stared hard at Mumford. Remember, you promised you wouldn't tell Steiner or Doc or any of the others about this. Mumford frowned. Yeah, I did promise, he said, but he was beginning to wish he hadn't. Mumford turned around and went back up the stairs. He didn't get his milk and cereal. He didn't work on his homework. He felt confused and more worried than ever. He climbed up to the top bunk and lay staring at the ceiling. He figured he'd be awake all night, but pretty soon his eyes closed, and despite this new worry, he fell asleep. Swisp, swisp. On the bunk below, Steiner opened his eyes. What was that noise? Swisp, swisp. It sounded like a board on a half-pipe, but it was way after midnight. Who could it be? Mumford? Was his friend so upset about wiping out that he decided to practice in the middle of the night? Steiner threw his legs over the side of the bunk and sat up. He stood and checked the top bunk. Mumford was lying there, fast asleep. Poor little guy, Steiner thought. He's had quite a day. Who then? One of the others on the team? It was natural for monsters to want to be out after dark, and when it was to school night, their parents, who were mostly monsters too, were cool with it. But tomorrow there was school, and school was always during the day because humans and monsters went to school together. The whole team should be home in bed. So who then? Steiner panted across the room and looked out his window into the backyard winter sports practice area. Down below, he could see a dark figure riding a board on the half-pipe. Whoever it was wore sweatshirts with the hood pulled over his head so his face was in shadow. The snowboarder. In the darkness, the figure looked bigger than Val, flew high into the air, did a 360 shifty, and headed back for the pipe fakie. He landed, swooped up the other side, grabbed big air, and did a 540 nollie with the same air grab Mumford had biffed on earlier. Steiner was amazed. If that was Val, he'd never seen his team captain board any better. Then something amazing happened. The snowboarder grabbed air, did a layback air hand plant, and vaulted off the half-pipe onto the asphalt patio beyond. He ripped off the snowboard bindings and raced to the bench. He put on skates. He slugged down a drink from a bottle sitting on the bench and zoomed uphill. The athlete whipped down the crashed ice slalom at breakneck speed, not missing a single turn. not touching a single flag. At the bottom of the hill, he jerked off his skates and pulled on boots and crampons. He grabbed Mumford's ice axes and went up the climbing wall as quick and easy as a cat scaling a tree. But toward the top of the wall, the figure began to slump a bit. It almost looked like he was shrinking. He struggled to the top ledge of the climbing wall and sat there, looking tired. Who could blame him? Steiner thought. In 15 minutes, the guy had done a workout worthy of 3 extreme athletes combined. But who was he? The figure tossed back his hood. The moonlight struck his face, and Steiner recognized Doc's nephew. Gerald said he was good, and I didn't believe him, Steiner thought. But he wasn't lying after all. Steiner felt ashamed for doubting the guy. If I could do all that, maybe I'd be bored with extreme winter sports too, Steiner thought, and maybe I wouldn't realize a kid like Mumford couldn't do a mute air grab first time he tried either. Atop his perch, Gerald was mumbling something. It sounded like, "You all think you're so great with your monster powers. Well, I have a power of my own. Brain power." And the rest of Gerald's monologue disappeared in a mumble as he lowered himself slowly down the wall. I wonder what he meant by that, Steiner thought. He might not like Gerald, but his skill was undeniable. More than undeniable, it was uncanny. Steiner sighed. Should I tell the others? Doc was Gerald's uncle, and Steiner owed Doc big time. Did that mean Steiner owed it to Gerald too, to keep it secret? Maybe I'll ask Gerald about it tomorrow when we're alone, he thought. He flopped back into his bed and tried to get back to sleep.